my candidate for Turk of the Year was Cori Bush. So I thought this one was actually fairly easy. Now we'll see if you guys agreed or not, because you voted and one of these folks won. Because Cori did almost everything right this year. She, at the very beginning of her term, introduced legislation to kick out Republicans who did not want to certify the legitimate results of the election. And she introduced that on January 6th. Nailed it. Okay, you could not have gotten that more right. Then she went on to do something that was harder, which is stand up to Democratic leadership. And she did the famous protest on the Capitol Hill steps so that people would not be kicked out of their homes, to stop for the eviction moratorium to continue, to stop the evictions. And it was a stunning success. And Biden was embarrassed by it, and then he had to basically bend to her will, because she fought the good fight, and she caused good trouble. Exactly what progressive base wanted, and it worked. We didn't just want it because we wanted an event, we wanted it because we thought it would be strategically correct, and she was right, and it did. And by the way, she's on January 6th of next year, she's reintroducing the legislation to kick out the Republicans that were against certifying the election. And I think that's also very right. And to top things off, she was one of the 6 brave progressives that voted no on the infrastructure bill, because she thought that we would lose leverage in the Senate if we did not vote on that bill and Build Back Better at the same time. Again, she was proven right. And unfortunately, they lost the leverage, and now Manchin has killed Build Back Better in the Senate, exactly as she predicted. And afterwards, she went on TV, by the way, and I should add, this was another good thing. As she said, look, not only were we right, not only did they lose the leverage and their strategy was wrong and our strategy was right, but on top of that, you got to start talking about the corruption, the fact that these folks are taking money from campaign contributors, and that is affecting their votes. So right out of the gate, her first year in Congress, a spectacular job. Cori Bush is my nominee for Turk of the Year. All right, now let's hear from the others. John, who do you have?
First of all, agree with everything you said. I also just want to point out for everyone, not that we necessarily would have had overlap, but we also by design can't have overlap. Each person had to choose different ones. So I'm gonna shock everyone right now and say that my Turk of the Year is gonna be Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Although I would say I didn't feel like any potential Turk could be that strong this year, because everything was so bad and no one good has any power. So, but inside of that context, I feel like in addition to other people like Cori Bush, she did a lot of good work. I think making sure that the conversation during the interminable infrastructure debate stayed focused on climate spending, and that we understood why some politicians like Joe Manchin were so opposed to the spending. She would go on cable news and she would talk about why they were opposed to some of these things. I think that was great. And obviously that follows up years of making the Green New Deal such a big part of our political conversation. I feel like in addition to people like Cori Bush, she supported trying to extend the eviction moratorium as long as possible after a full year of trying to get people, as the pandemic developed, to focus on this crisis that was coming, as well as the other crises like the repayment that's going to start for student loans soon, and all of that. I feel like she was a target of this newly normalized willingness to sort of wish for the blood of your political opponents. We saw that with the Paul Gosar thing, and I felt like she responded very well to that. It's become so normalized, and it has not only targeted AOC. People like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and others face it constantly, but I feel like she responded very well to that. And overall, I would say that's why I'm picking her. I feel like as a politician, she fills a similar position as the TYT does in media, in that we have to simultaneously fight virtually everyone. She is trying to, keep the January 6 people accountable, those who were encouraging that, but also trying to keep Biden focused on the promises he's made, while also fighting the even more blatantly corrupt Democrats like Manchin and Sinema and all that. It's a lot of fights simultaneously, and so I feel a kinship there. So that was why she was my Turk of the Year.
Yes, and by the way, there's of course other great progressive legislators too, and everybody's got different things that going for them. Katie Porter, amazing with her whiteboard and how she takes on corporate executives, etc. But she was not among the 6 that voted no. So, yeah. And of course, there's like in the old days, we used to have like 20 people that we would nominate, right? We're trying to bring it down. But Rashad went in a completely different direction. It's really interesting. So Rashad, who's your Turk of the Year?
All right, so I echo what everybody has said, agree 100%. So my Turk of the Year is actually a TYT viewer, David Smith. David personifies the greatness that I would like to achieve and that example of growth and leadership. So let me tell you about my big homie, David. David started contacting me via social media, like a lot of TYT viewers do, when I was on the Twitch channel, right? And from there, he started to gain more confidence to engage his social media community, to engage his local followers, and talk about policy and really push policy. David has a remarkable family. He works day and night, but he finds time to watch and listen to TYT. Well, because of that connection, David decided he was going to start pushing a policy agenda and engaging in actual debate with individuals who did not think like him. And in order to do that, you must invite opportunity for back and forth. Sometimes it gets irritating, obviously, and people on the other side of the political coin can be quite troll-worthy in their commentary. But David did not allow that to stop him. Now here's David, a guy who works all day, raising a family, is a TYT viewer, and felt empowered to start engaging conservatives about policy. And one day, David said, Doc, would you become my mentor? And my answer immediately was yes. And so David and I, we damn near communicate every day, okay? And David is now one of these individuals who pushes the progressive agenda. He talks about progressive policy. And I told David something that stuck with him, and I say this to my college students and to my indisputable viewers as well. The idea of debate is not to win. That's not the idea of debate. The idea of debate is to create an aha moment for the other side. The idea of debate is actually conversion, not victory. When you're able to convert one idea away from the grasp of conservative or corrupt policies, that's the win, not the debate. It's conversion. And David has been doing this very consistently. He sends me some of these screenshots of him going back and forth with people. And here's the remarkable thing about it. And this is why David is my Turk of the Year. Because David is all of us. The potential that David has, the capacity that he has to do what he's doing, we all have that. Some of us have more time to do it. But David is finding this time as a working, family supporting person to engage at this level on a regular basis, and he's changing minds. So while he is the microcosm of my highlight, the macrocosm is everyone who watches TYT, who engages the community, who's a member, you are just as capable to do exactly what David's doing. And I want everyone to remember the phrase that we keep forgetting about this country is we the people. We the people. It should always come back to we the people. Not we the politician, not we the corporate agenda, but we the people. We truly have the power. The greatest trick politicians ever played on the American people was to make them believe that the power belonged to the politician. 86% of Americans are getting their news from social media, some form of it from social media. So that means the same platform where the majority of Americans are actually getting their content from, virtually every single one of us have access to that same platform. Unheard of, it's a new dynamic in how we consume media. So my Turk of the Year is David, and then anyone who wants to do what David is doing.
All right. So look, I love everything Rashad just said, which is not unusual. A lot of us on the network have appropriately named shows. Young Turks means young progressive rebels looking to overthrow an established system. Rashad is indisputable. He really is.
Thank you, my dear brother.
And so I can't believe you mentored a member. I love that, but you guys have to know the context. Rashad has half a dozen jobs.
Yeah.
I don't know. You got more jobs than a Jamaican. I don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Easy.
So it's unbelievable how busy you are, and you did that anyway. And I love the story of Dave. And by the way, there's tons of those stories. So yes. Chaplain Fred wrote in today. So he's a chaplain, and he had said earlier that he was more on the right wing, and he started listening, and he was like, oh, that sounds a little bit right. What do we talk about? We plant seeds, right? And if those seeds are empty and we're wrong, they're never going to bloom. They're never going to blossom into anything, right? But if we're right, they blossom into the truth, and it gets into people's heads, and then but they have to be open-minded enough to do it. That's why what Dave is doing and what Rashad is doing, what we're all doing, I hope and I think are very, very important, because you're planting those seeds, and I think it could even begin to break cults, and sometimes we'll get those as well. Even earlier today, we got somebody who wrote in and said, look, I was a forced to vote dead ender. I kept going back to that same old tired issue. Basically, was the gist of the comment that I read earlier on the show. And now I don't. Now, I'm back to fighting for progressives and sticking together and making sure that we fight forward. And I love that, right? So that's a great selection. The last entrant for Turk of the Year, Senator Nina Turner, take it away.
For me, I chose the striking workers across this country who, whether they know it or not, certainly bandied together and exerted power over corporations that are making money hand over fist. Some of these workers, from John Deere striking not only for better wages, but also to make sure that there was not a double-tiered system for employees coming in after them, to Kellogg's, to there were workers striking in Nebraska, Ohio, just really all over the country. And this synergy that they all brought was nothing short of amazing. It is very important that working class people all over this country come together and make those kinds of demands. I want to share something. Dr. Robert Reich always keeps us informed on what is happening with the 1%. But he said if the top 1% owning 15 times more wealth than the bottom 50% combined doesn't convince you that wealth inequality is out of control, I don't know what will. And I mean, we can talk about stat after stat, how corporations, the very corporations that benefit from the labor of their workers, that are making these companies viable, refuse to increase their wages and refuse to make their work conditions better, refuse to make sure that they have the best health care. So kudos to the employees across this country, the union workers who stood up. And we also know that when union workers strike and they make demands for better wages, better work conditions, better benefits, it also helps our sisters and brothers and family and friends who are not in labor unions. I hope to see more of that as we go into 2022, that workers all across this country will unite in solidarity and say enough is enough is enough. We are not going to continue to take it anymore. And then for Amazon workers, I'm so happy. I want to throw that in, that the Amazon workers in Bessemer, Alabama get a chance to get another bite of this apple. And I'm hoping that they will be successful. We saw several Starbucks where people have unionized. So workers are the Turks for me this year.
Okay, I want to get your thoughts on the other candidates before we reveal the winner.
I mean, if I could say, I think that Nina's totally right in terms of not just people who are doing good work, but like if there's anything that can inspire us in this horrible year that followed up another horrible year, people who have, whether they've struck and won like with John Deere and eventually Kellogg's, or with Starbucks, or even those who are going up against these gigantic corporations. And even if they haven't succeeded yet, I feel like those striking workers were certainly the largest and honestly one of the only sources of inspiration throughout the whole year.
Yeah, it's 100%. So, Senator Tanner, what do you think of the other candidates?
Yeah, well, I love them all. I mean, they all are something special. And I'm so glad that John explained that we couldn't overlap, because I think that we all would have picked each other's. And certainly Cori Bush was at the top of my list, and I was torn between her and the striking workers, and so delighted to see that you put her on the list. Everybody that was named, I wish we can just crown them all Turks of the Year, because each and every person that has been named here adds to the whole. So I'm just overjoyed with all of the choices that we had this year.
Rashad?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I will say this about the striking workers. I'm wearing my union lapel pin here. And I do this often, just every day, just going out, because I want somebody to ask. Organized labor and the ability to collectively bargain and to influence legislation is the reason why mom and them can afford to pay the bills. It's the reason why we have some level of security in this very corporate United States of America, some level of work security. So I echo and champion everyone, and I especially highlight those who are not only willing to unionize, to pay the dues, to make the limited sacrifice in order to create the ultimate good, but for those who are willing to go on strike and make a demand and put your foot down. Sometimes it's time out for drawing circles and you gotta draw a line. And that's what has happened with many of these workers who are striking now across the country.
As usual, you put it in a great way. Yeah, stop drawing circles, time to draw a line. Okay.
I know that, but.
So often both Rashad and Nina preach, and then they plant a seed. I take it and I say it over and over again. I love their lines. Well, I thought it was gonna be close. It wasn't. The people have spoken. I think close to 25,000 votes. And the Turk of the Year is striking workers.
Oh my God.
Well deserved.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm a tiny bit surprised because people usually vote for other specific folks. So given how heroic all these folks were, but especially Cori Bush this year, I thought that she might get the votes, and plenty of people voted for everybody, including Cori, obviously, right? But I say all that because it's striking workers struck a chord. People were like, yes, that, yes, more strikes, more worker empowerment, and I love that. I think that it's people saying we've had enough of corporate rule and we have to quite literally strike back. So that's why I think they won easily in a landslide.
That is beautiful. And Cenk, just the sacrifices that the striking workers have to make. I mean, you're not getting paid while you are on strike. You are deliberately saying, I am going to stop my income for something that is higher, for something that is bigger than all of us, for the greater good. And many of those workers, they're not just striking for themselves right now, like in real time. They are. That's one part of it. They're also striking for future workers who are going to come behind them. And it's such an incredible sacrifice to make. So I am man and woman. I am so happy that the people spoke and they picked the striking workers.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick on that. Look, that's right. Even the great progressive legislators who did wonderful things, including fighting back against power today, they're at least Congress people, right? Whereas the striking workers are average folks who are barely getting by. That's why they're going to strike, right? And living under really hard conditions, and they're risking everything, and they don't get the glory. They don't get the fame.
That's right.
They don't get any of that. They just fight for their fellow brothers and sisters.
And finally, if I could throw it in, sometimes they do it and they don't even get the attention that you would like expect in any sort of rational country they would. Like we have, the right wing loves to pretend that they're so in favor of certain types of initiatives. They support, the soldiers until they come home, then they don't support them anymore. They support cops until cops are stopping them from overthrowing democracy, and then they try to beat them to death. They support coal miners until the coal miners go on strike, and then they don't care. Like the populist Fox News didn't care to talk at all about that strike, even when people who worked for the coal mines were running into them purposefully while they were out striking. Like it's so easy for our country to just ignore that these movements are happening. And so when one group strikes, it not only, as Nina was saying, helps them, but it reminds people that this is a thing that we can do, that we don't need to be brainwashed into thinking that we shouldn't expect anything more. We have such a negative built-in view of other workers in this country, and so I'm glad that there are people that can point out that doesn't have to be the way.
Yes,
amen.
That's right. This is the way. And so I love the winners here, and I love the audience backing the striking workers, basically saying, "We got your back, brothers and sisters. Keep going, keep going." Okay, that's quoting Nina Turner, quoting Harriet Tubman.
Yeah,
I remember.
You do, and everybody's a winner, though. Our list. I'm glad that our viewers, people picked the striking workers, but I wanted to say that everybody that made the list this year are extraordinary.
And let's keep it real, okay? Yeah. Nina picked them, so she wins. I'm kidding. I
she
love
gets
it.
The
I love
$1
it.
Okay.
Oh yeah, right. One day, but not today. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.